Welcome to Healthy Buzz, the podcast for women who are craving honest answers in a supported community. Hosted by Brandy Homerding, a certified nutrition therapy practitioner who believes your body isn't broken, but the narrative around women's health is. Each week, we're diving deep into holistic health topics, challenging the one-size-fits-all approach, and empowering you to trust your own informed intuition. Get ready to feel seen, supported, and seriously informed. This is Healthy Buzz, where collaboration meets unfiltered transparency in women's health. If you have ever left a doctor's office with a PCOS diagnosis and a handful of partial answers, usually involving a prescription for a pill and a vague instruction of just lose weight, this episode is for you. PCOS is more than just a cluster of symptoms. It's a condition that impacts a woman's identity, her daily rhythm, and her long-term vitality. Today, I am joined by Monica Reagor of the PCOS Awareness Association. We are moving beyond the quick fix diet culture and into a conversation about advocacy, daily frameworks, and the emotional resilience required to live well with a chronic condition. Monica is a co-founder of the PCOS Awareness Association and a patient advocate focused on education, support, and the practical management strategies for women living with polycystic ovarian syndrome. After navigating her own diagnosis journey, she now helps women understand symptoms, build sustainable health routines, and confidently advocate for their care. Professionally, Monica is a cybersecurity compliance manager who works in governance, risk, and regulatory accountability. She hosts 2 podcasts where she interviews leaders and shares practical insight, and she writes and speaks on personal growth, health, and purpose-driven leadership. She is also an author, a community servant leader, and a former pageant queen who uses every platform she holds to promote confidence, discipline, and the whole person wellness. Monica, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you for having me. And every time I hear my bio, I'm like, man, you have a ton of commas, comma. And I think, you know what? Go for it, right? Be all that you want to be, and the world says you can't be that.
Yep, be that and more. So I would love to hear about your personal journey with PCOS. Like, why are you so passionate about helping women advocate for PCOS?
In 2003, trying to find my way through my corporate career, I landed a really great job working for a financial bank. And so I had health insurance. And I was like, great, this is wonderful. I can go to the doctor, do your annual checkup. And I started having like symptoms of hirsutism, and I was fighting my weight gain and all this other stuff. And that was in my late 20s. And so my doctor at the time said, let's put you on birth control so you can get your period regular, and then put you on metformin. I don't ever remember her telling me that I had PCOS. But years later, life was life. And again, I worked for a financial institution. Then we had the recession, and I transitioned from Virginia to Louisiana, people, my mother who was in hospice. So I was working at establishing a health profile with a new doctor in Louisiana, and, explained these are all the things I have. And she says, do you know or heard about PCOS? Because I think you have PCOS. And I thought she was telling me I had cancer because I never heard of PCOS. And then I finally got my medical records. Like, you can ask for your medical records to be sent to you. So I got my medical records from my previous doctor to be sent to me. And in the diagnosis, it says patient potentially has PCOS, treating her for PCOS, not necessarily diagnosing me for it. And that was in 2014. So essentially for a decade, I was still struggling with trying to find a way to feel better. And again, during that period, it was really surface level, meaning, it's just the physical manifestations of the symptoms. It was the weight gain, struggle, the oily skin, the hirsutism and hair on your chin in various places. I didn't realize this, but I had a lot of teeth issues during that time. And I was pretty decent about at least brushing my teeth twice a day. But now later on, probably like the last 6 months or so, we have a dental hygienist on our board. And she says, no, because PCOS lowers your vitamin D, and there's usually like anemia, iron, vitamin D deficiency. Most people have issues with their teeth of some form. At the time, there wasn't a GLP-1 out, but I was diagnosed with insulin resistance. And so initially it was, do you want to have kids? I was like, no, I'm single and I'm trying to figure out my life, and it's not where I want to be. And, who knows if I get married or whatever. And so they put me on spironolactone, more metformin, put me on iron pills, the typical responses when it comes to when you're being diagnosed with PCOS. And it helped. I lost about 35 pounds at first, but it was difficult to maintain because I wasn't aware of the other challenges that came with PCOS, which is the fatigue, the stress, And at that time, life was life. And between my mother being sick, me trying to be a provider and work and still have a career-ish at the same time, and then losing my mom and then trying to figure out if I want to stay in Louisiana or not. I had all those challenges. I was having anxiety to depression. I was struggling to focus, which was a clear sign of brain fog. Then there was other associated things like, increase of my thyroids. They were like, well, your thyroid seems to be elevated. Let's try to put you on thyroid medicine. I was like, that's awful. I'm not that old. So it was just a lot of those challenges. But what I found now that I'm 45 now, so we're talking over 2 decades of trying to figure this out, that in my younger years, I played sports from elementary school to college, basketball, volleyball, ran track, did field events. But I was still always the bigger girl. I was the stocky girl. I fought with the hunger, the starvation. Like I would eat and I still felt bad, or I was still hungry, or I would go to bed hungry, or I would wake up because I was hungry. And I didn't understand like waking up in the middle of the night wasn't just, a part of my faith, like, hey, something's going on, but also that was a key signal that your cortisol may be up. And so I believe that my symptoms really manifested at the time of my period when I was in high school, and my cramps were horrific. The bleeding was excessive. But, being up from a community of African Americans where, the culture is like, oh, just muscle through it. It's fine. You'll get over it. I didn't grow out of it. I'm 45. I'm still dealing. And I have the nerve to be 45. And now we're doing period menopause. That is a mess. That is a double whammy. So I'll let you know on the other side what that was about. But it feels like I've been going through period menopause since I was a kid. So that's my journey. And it's highlight from the time I was in high school to now. I think in the last 5 years, I have done really well about trying to manage my state of mind, because I think that's the part that we miss, and being kind to myself and being intentional about how I feel about my stressful job, because my job is really demanding and stressful. And thank you to the GLP-1, and I'm not pushing that, but for some of us like myself who are classic insulin resistance, that is helpful. And now my focus is to figure out a way to do one of two things. One, if I'm going to be on it for long term, how do I manage that lifestyle? Or two, how do I create a lifestyle that I can wean myself off, and my lifestyle will support a healthy way of being without my insulin resistance wreaking havoc for me? And that's the hard part, because again, I was an athlete and I'm still gaining weight. I was an athlete and burning as much as I was probably, exerting, even in my adult years. And so my journey for PCOS, I think, is like many in the sense that it took a long time for me to be diagnosed. And two, I did experience upfront the typical response, oh, if you want to have children, blah, blah, blah. But now, understanding where I am in my 40s, understanding that if I was trying to have children, I would have probably struggled just based on the severity of my symptoms. And I am also okay with the fact that I don't have children. Not that I'm not the best auntie ever, or maybe one day I may adopt, but me giving birth is just not in the cards for me. And that's okay, that I'm still worthy and valuable to offer impact in the world as well.
So much of what you talked about is so relatable. Like, I got diagnosed with PCOS not until the age of 38, because I was on hormonal birth control for 17 years prior to that. And I go into detail about this in episode 1 of the Healthy Buzz podcast, so everybody can go back and listen to my full journey. But same thing, like there's often a lot of dismissal, a lot of like these blanket kind of recommendations where nobody's really explaining what. And like you said, that for a lot of people, getting a PCOS diagnosis can at first sound pretty scary, because at first you're like, oh, do I have cancer? Like, what does this mean? I don't even know what this means. And I hear that a lot from clients that I'm working with, that they are told you have PCOS, and then they're just kind of like pushed out the door, and they're like, what does this mean? So they're having to go down these rabbit holes on Reddit and Instagram, on Facebook community pages, and like trying to figure out what actually this means and how to support their body, and what does that look like. And I think, what I'm hearing from you is when you actually found the person that can listen to you and help you navigate that, and it was like, oh, this makes more sense. This feels good in my body. And I agree, time and place for the medications. The GLP-1s can be really beneficial for women struggling with PCOS and that insulin resistance, and just to get the needle moving in the right direction. And I love that you're looking for ways like, how do I support my body if I come off this? What does that look like? And that's really important when it comes to it as well. So when we think about PCOS, many women are going to spend like a decade undiagnosed. You went a decade with a diagnosis that you didn't know that you had.
Right. Almost 2 decades. Yeah.
Yeah. I went many years without a diagnosis because I had disconnected and turned that part of my life off. But what are some of the signs and symptoms of PCOS that maybe the medical system is ignoring? And why do we wait until a woman wants to get pregnant before their hormone health is really taken seriously?
Yeah, so there's two parts to that question. The second part of the question is because women have always been underrepresented, right? Women was never part of the scientific community or medical community until like 1993. Right. So we're talking a little over a decade that women were added to clinical research and studies. We were abused, if you will, and mishandled when it came to like our cancer cells with Henrietta, when her family just now was able to get the recognition and acknowledgement around her contributions with her own cells from her cancer years ago in the Hispanic Latino community, where women were testing without real full consent on birth control. So at the very end of that, the reason why there's always a misconception or they're like, very dismissive is because we've always been dismissed. And that is just a cultural norm that we are going to have to fight through. It is not something that they're going to give to us. And I say they collectively, but we will have to continue to advocate for ourselves. Now, for PCOS from a medical perspective is very unique for every single person. Brandy, you and I have PCOS. I'm pretty confident you and I have shared similarities, but there are areas where we're different. And so there are people, I wish I was on the other end of this spectrum, but there's people who don't struggle with the weight gain, right? Or there's people who don't struggle with having children, but they still have the other symptoms of PCOS. They have the darkening of skin. They have the extra oily acne and adult acne. They have the hirsutism in the areas. Those are physical traits and attributes. The other is, elevated A1C, potentially, being anemic because they have 6-week cycles or no cycles at all, even though for most of us, we'd probably be happy to give up our menstrual cycle because it's just a disaster. For me, I'm still in my 40s and it's still a disaster. And so I think for that, oftentimes it is very challenging to explain or to pinpoint. So one of the things I do appreciate about where I am now for the last 7 years, I have a team of doctors. So I have my general or internal medicine doctor for all my annual wellness. Then I have my OBGYN for all the extra stuff. And then I do have an endocrinologist. They are fantastic and they hold me accountable because I can be a bit lazy. And part of that, I think, is my brain fog and my unwillingness to deal with stress when I'm overwhelmed. But they hold me to account. They say, Monica, I haven't seen you in over a year. We're supposed to keep up a 6-month cadence. I need to be able to do blood work on you on a regular basis so I can tell if something's out of whack, meaning your testosterone, my iron levels, because 3 years ago, my iron was like at a 5 or 6. Now I have a hematologist. And so there are things where it's important that you have a team of doctors that are hopefully in the same network because it just makes the communication easier to track your symptoms in a way that they can build a portfolio that's hopefully appropriate for your insurance, right? Or is helpful for you to determine if you want to go in a homeopathic way that trying to manage your symptoms and reset your body that you're balanced. And that's really what PCOS is. It's a metabolic disorder that really puts your hormonal state in disarray. And either it's your cortisol and androgen, testosterone, like name it, is probably us. And then it's usually the foundation for most cases for other associated disorders like diabetes. So that's why you have to monitor your A1C. That's why they immediately put you on metformin because it's like you need sugar. But the problem is culture, because the fact that you think that being insulin resistant is dealing with sugar and that's the only thing is incorrect because I'm lazy or I'm just eating bad food. What it is, insulin resistant, is one of 4 types of PCOS. And so that means that your blood cells, so let's take 10 blood cells, is supposed to take food and the glucose out of that food and sugar and your insulin. Once you start eating, your pancreas produces more insulin and they're supposed to absorb that. And then it gives you all the nutrients and it tells your body, okay, we're full. We got enough energy, right? What happens is out of those 10 cells, let's just say 9 of them are locked. They're not operating properly. So only one is operating. Well, the other 9 are necessary to signal that you're full or to signal to your body that you're getting enough nutrients, but they're not working. They're locked for this presentation or demonstration, right? So they're locked. So therefore, your body's always in a state of starving. There's only one pathway of getting that insulin. So now the signal is going back to your pancreas and to your liver and saying, hey, we need more because we're not getting enough. Or really, you are getting more than enough, right? So then your body, in its amazing way of trying to compensate for all of the craziness, then it will just store it as, well, we're just storing this because you need it because apparently the rest of you is starving, right? And so I know that's a very complicated answer, but because PCOS is so complicated and the misinformation is unfortunate, that a lot of times the doctors, I find, is that they don't have enough time in the day to really build the right portfolio because their build or their payment or their livelihood is built on how many people they can get into office and how quickly, and how many that they can diagnose. And is it really worth the effort of dealing with someone who has PCOS because they may or may not want children? But that should never be the premise. Again, that goes back to culture. Is women, we are contributors of growth and life, and that's great. But if we are challenged with that, if IVF is not one of the things that are working for us, because one is very expensive and it's not a guarantee, surrogacy is another that is very expensive, that's not a guarantee, or what have you, and then we are unfortunately demonized that we're not contributing to society. So now you have that other pressure that's on you, and then you're still trying to figure out for yourself, how do I exist in the world? One, I don't feel well. So let's talk about physical, right? 2, I'm stressed. Either life is life and work is work and family's life, all of that. So you're mentally stressed and trapped. And then you have culture that's saying, because you are not meeting this framework or criteria, you are less than. And so that just exacerbates a lot of the challenges I see in our community for our other sisters or partners who have spouses or girlfriends or partners who have PCOS. And they're like, I don't even know how to help them because some minutes they're great and the other minute I just don't know. I often tell them that it's really giving them the space to be where they are in that moment without being judgmental. And it can be exhausting on you. I get it. So I know that's a 3-part answer to a complicated question, but it does require those 3. It's your physical being, how you see yourself, but also where we are as a culture, and we have to stand up and fight for it.
Yeah. Oh, so much that I want to comment on here. So first, I love that you are talking about how you have to have a wellness team. I mean, I don't even think that you have to have PCOS to have a wellness team. I think women in general need to have a wellness team. People that are going to help you with different areas and aspects. Because as you mentioned, like oftentimes our medical providers have a very small, short window of time that they can work with you on something. And so they may not have the capacity to explain everything and hold you accountable in a way that maybe you need. So that's where somebody like me comes into play, and I can help you walk through, navigate, help you understand what's actually going on with your body and what that actually means. The other thing that I really love that you touched on here is the role that we place on women in our society. Because I am also a childless woman in my 40s and we are not having children. And I talk to my therapist a lot about this. Like, what is my role in our society? Because our society puts so much more, in my perspective, so much more weight on the women with children than the women who don't have children. So that's like a whole nother episode to unpack.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And we have those conversations often. And I'm pretty open about that. One, because I'm living in it, but 2, there's 2 dynamics, right? So there's those who are mothers, either single or with a spouse or a partner. And I think that's great. And thank you for being able to provide a guidance or be a guardian to this wonderful life that hopefully will also contribute to society, right? But the other side of that is it's still my choice, right? And we still have the ability to choose. And is it physically safe for me to have children? And if not, can I be the best auntie ever? And I think it will be up to us as a collective to help change that narrative. And it's unfortunate, it's not necessary or shouldn't be necessary, but it is, because our roles are bringing a diversity of thought at the table. So yes, I can absolutely empathize and support a person who has children and who has the privilege and the honor to rear and to graze another life, but also give the same honor to those who are choosing otherwise for whatever the reasons are. Maybe they don't have the mental capacity to raise a child. I don't know about you, but if you are just not mentally prepared to raise a child, then you probably shouldn't be having one, right? Like I prefer you not to have any at all. So therefore, we're not adding trauma onto someone who is just innocent. I think we were missing those components. And so I always want to uplift women who have either made the choice or just cannot, that you're still valuable, you're still worthy of your impact and your influence in the world today. And so don't let that dim your light.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Healthy Buzz community. Have you been curious about using a continuous glucose monitor to unlock powerful insights to your metabolic health? Imagine seeing in real time how your body responds to different meals, different workouts, and also the effects of stress. Now, what if you could experience those benefits without being locked into any type of recurring subscription like some of the other continuous glucose monitor programs out there? With my Blood Sugar Savvy course, you'll get exactly that. You'll receive access to 7 engaging learning modules, 2 continuous glucose monitors to start your wellness journey, plus 4 weekly one-on-one video strategy sessions with me where I'll personally guide you to understanding your CGM data. We'll work together to identify your unique blood sugar patterns and create customized strategies for better energy, mood, and overall well-being. Oh, and by the way, this is especially crucial during your peri- and postmenopausal years. Blood Sugar Savvy is about understanding your body on a deeper level, implementing practical strategies, and gaining sustainable knowledge to support your overall health and wellness. Ready to get Blood Sugar Savvy and take control of your metabolic health? Healthy Buzz listeners can save $30 simply by using the code BUZZ at checkout. Your personalized blood sugar journey starts now. So let's talk about like the PCOS symptoms. You know, we've talked about some of them like hair loss, acne, weight changes. These often are going to really be something that women take to heart, that how they see themselves is definitely going to change how they see themselves because they're dealing with all of these physical things. So how do you help women navigate the emotional and identity impact of a diagnosis when they feel like their body has become a complete stranger to them?
A couple of things is to, one, help a person to choose to reconcile what they are. About 18 months ago, I was about 297 pounds, right? I was not my healthiest. I literally had a moon face. Even though it was cute, I had a moon face and I physically ached. My body ached. I didn't feel like myself. I struggled a lot. Now I'm at 221 as I weighed myself this morning, and I'm grateful for that. And so the first thing I will encourage someone to do is where you are, how you feel, what you see is not your definitive answer or a finality to your life, right? Yes, my waxing bill is astronomical. If anyone asks, I think it's insane that I have to wax my chin and in places that it should be have to wax, right? That's so silly. But that's part of our journey. So that's okay. The other is understanding like the hair loss. You know what? It's okay if you decide to put on a wig. Who cares? And it's decide if you want to go bald. Who cares? Not to say that you shouldn't care, but know that you are not defined by what you're seeing. The question is, who are you? Right. And so at PCOS Awareness Association, we have our monthly meetups virtually in our Shade of Teal community. And that's what we talk about. We talk about what is going great and then what are we challenged with, right? And that is a place where we allow people to just talk about their journey, where they are. One of the things that we often get from our social media community is DMs where people are just done, to your point. They're like, I don't meet this place. I don't feel like I fit into society. I don't feel like I'm worth the space that I'm existing in. And as much as I want to jump in there and help you out, I don't have the capacity, especially when you're in a space where you're maybe harming yourself or thinking about harming yourself. So we've partnered with Crisis Text Line because we know that we are just not qualified. We have all the empathy and compassion in the world. We want you to be safe. And so you can text PCOS to 741-741, I believe, and you will immediately get someone that will be able to talk you through in that moment that is most qualified. And so that's what we do. So with PCOS AA, we just try to partner with organizations that are already doing that work. There's no need for us to reinvent the wheel, and try to provide tangible resources to address some of those symptoms. We can address everything. So we have organizations and businesses that offer supplements. Absolutely great. Put it on our platform. Doesn't mean that we are going to push you to that particular supplement. We want you to create a system for yourself, right? And so your symptoms are not permanent. And if they look like they're permanent, like the hair loss, it's still okay. Let's be creative. I mean, Brandy has red bangs. I love it. So let's go for it. You know, if today I'm wearing a wig, tomorrow I'll have purple braids. I don't know. but this is what we're going to do, right? And I want people to know that you're not defined by that, but you do and you are required. It is our responsibility independently to figure out what works best for us in order to manage them. And at some point, if you can find a way, the system that works for you, that puts your body into what we call remission. Now, some people say you can be healed from it. I say I'm in my healing state, yeah. But I don't think there's a cure. There's no cure because I have cured myself at least 3 different times. And then if life is life in, I'm not taking good care of myself, I'm stressed to no end, I can literally spike my cortisol, testosterone. I can easily put on 50 pounds by just breathing. Then we're back in a huge PCOS flare up, right? So I would say to you, the proper language should be, I'm in a healing cycle. I would like to stay in my healing cycle in a balanced state. And so even if that means getting a therapist to walk you through how you see yourself and deal with your past, or a coach to help you deal with your future, whatever that may be, get a team around you to support you. And if you're like, well, it's kind of expensive and I don't have the finances with everything going on, there's YouTube, right? There's communities like PCOS Awareness Association, or there's local communities. Even if you're not PCOS focused, there may be women focused. Like, how do I support you as a woman? Every woman is going through something. So why not get into a community where just you have a place to speak and be safe?
Yeah, yeah. The thing that I think that is really important for any woman, especially the PCOS woman, I know it can be really challenging to accept your body as we're going through some of these changes and the physical changes, the internal changes that we are feeling that people can't see that we're struggling with. So I know that can be really challenging, but I also know that it's okay to love and accept your body as it is right now. And it's okay to want better for your body as well. Both of those things can be true at the same time. And honestly, we can't hate our way to a better body. It's just not going to work. We have to show it a little compassion, a little love. And it doesn't mean that you have to look in your mirror and be like, oh my gosh, I love my body every single day. No, that's probably not going to work, right? You can't gaslight yourself into like
none of those tendencies at all. No.
But we have to think about the things that we do love and accept about our body, and how can we make a little peace with it so that we're not at this constant struggle all day, every day. And then do the little things that are adding to your health and wellness journey and moving you closer to your goal. And so, something that often can happen, or people are looking for like the quick fix, right? They're looking for the perfect supplement or the best meal plan. But like, how could that actually create more chaos and more stress on the body?
Yeah. If you are mentally stressed or nervous or anxious about something, your body will respond. I think we as PCOS sisters or the PCOS woman, we are very sensitive to our mental, emotional state. If it's a blip of stress, our body's going to immediately respond. So I say that to say it's important that you accept where you are now, but then get into the gym. Like I weightlift, right? So because that's what I need to do. That's important to me. I'm on a GLP-1 along with everything else. And again, I want to be able to hopefully one day wean myself off of it, even if that's an option. But in the meantime, I also need to maintain my cuteness. So I need to figure out, I'm working on my shoulders so I can wear a tank top. Like those are small things you can do. And you're like, you know what, that looks pretty good. I think what's also important is also understanding that trying to force yourself into a diet or one focus, and it may not be something that you enjoy. Dieting should be fun if you're going to diet. I say create it as your nutrition wants. If you like tofu, great. Then figure out how to make that tofu 30 grams of protein. You get your protein and your tofu every day, right? So find the creativity. I'm single. I don't want to be in the kitchen all day. So I try to find quick things. Like I go to the store, to my grocery store, and I get some pre-made salmon that I can warm up. So that's my lunch. I tend to be traveling a lot. I do my best if I do eat out that I walk 35 minutes after the meal so I don't sleep with my sugar being spiked, right? So those small things have been quite helpful, and I feel like I sleep better. I'm a big advocate for making sure I take my magnesium glycinate so I can help lower my cortisol. But I'm also sensitive to other things, like if I'm not taking my inositol, I can tell in my bones because my bones hurt. And so I say to you is find what works for you. I typically, when I'm at the house and I'm motivated to cook, I try to do a paleo diet, but that doesn't mean that vegetarian, vegan, what have you isn't important. It's just that's what I choose to do. And I feel better that way. But do I bust down a good banana pudding cake if I feel like it? Absolutely, I do. I just won't do it 3 days a week. I'll just do it 1 day a week. We have to be intentional in that space. So if it's a supplement that works for you, like I said, I take some myself. I don't point people to this is the supplement you should take. I say this is something that I've heard, like spearmint tea is great for someone who has PCOS. L-carnitine is good for someone who has PCOS. For weight loss, taking, flaxseed is great for PCOS and lowering your sugar. Like there's so many different things. So you just have to find what works for you. You may not like flaxseed. I don't like peas. And I know that's crazy, but I don't like peas, but if you give me a good bowl of collard greens, I am down. Find what you enjoy. There is no right or wrong answer. Can you deviate from the past? Absolutely. But it's you creating the system that works for you. And it will take time because every single person with PCOS, their journey is different.
Yes, absolutely. What about, you've touched on this, but the role of community? How does having a community base help anchor the changes that a woman is going through and the uncertainty or unfairness of PCOS?
Yeah. The first thing I remember, and I'm sure Brandy, you have the same story, it's like, am I the only person in the world that has it? Is this a rare disease? Because I surely didn't know it existed, right? But when you're in a community, you find one, I'm not by myself. Two, oh, wait, everybody has a similar story. I am pretty sure everybody's going to be able to say either I've been told I need to go on birth control, I've been told to come back when I want to get pregnant, I've told been to get on metformin. You got three things right there that everybody can get down with, right? And so community helps uplift, it helps you discern and parse some of the feelings that you may have. It also helps you give grace to yourself because after when you walk away from like a great conversation with someone who has a shared experience or journey, you're like, you know what, it's not that bad. I think we can do this together. It's always great to have a place where you can be reflective, and it's a great place to be safe and say, you know what, I need to talk about my period. I've been bleeding for 4 weeks. You can't talk about that with your partner or your coworkers for the most part, right? Nobody wants to hear about that. But someone in the PCS community was like, girl, I've been on my period for 12 weeks. And so I think it's important that you build community, meet people with community. And again, sometimes let's just say you are the only person in a community that has PCOS or who's willing to talk about it. That's okay. Get into a woman's community and be the voice in that room that maybe a daughter or a daughter's friend or your niece may have signs of it.
Yeah, that is so powerful. I feel like having the sounding board of somebody who can relate to what you're going through is so impactful. You do not need to go through your journey on your own. You can find the community. They have the community available. Monica has a community set up, which you can dive into. Find somebody to talk to about this because it is so important. It does have such an impact on your mental health as well. Let's talk about like symptoms and tracking symptoms because I know for a lot of women, they're like, I think I have PCOS. I don't know. So, what does tracking with intention look like? And how does the data change the dynamic that you have in the doctor's office?
Yeah, so tracking is really important. And then let's just be very clear, it can be very exhausting, right? Because we're talking about almost micromanaging your life. Because at the end of the day, we have to track your menstrual cycle however you feel comfortable with. If it's on paper, great. If it's on a calendar, great. If it's on an app, also great, right? That way, there's a clear indicator of how often your cycle is showing up. The second is to track after you eat how quickly you become hungry again. That is always a clear indicator for myself that my cortisol has spiked after 2-3 hours. If I'm hungry after that, then that may be a sign. If you're like 90 minutes after eating and you're hungry again, that is a clear sign that you're maybe not able to process. You're having a sugar spike or insulin or something is going on there. The other is tracking if you have hair, like if it's starting to bub, like these little prickly things are in places that on your chest and your boobs, your back. It's not just being hairy, it's in these odd places. If you have like darkening of your skin, you want to start to note that. If your face, especially if you're older and your face starts to really seems oily more often than none, or you're getting those adult cystic acne, that is probably clear signs of that. Track all of that. When you go into the doctor's office, you have this information. Two things you're able to do. One, you can prove to your doctor that you're not making it up because that's usually what they say, right? Like, oh, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Here's why. And then two, if you have a really great doctor, it gives your doctor more information so they can decide what pathway they want to support you with. Some people just need spirulactone, or they just may need metformin. Maybe that's better for them. They know what blood work to request, what panels to request. Maybe your estrogen. Maybe if you're in your 40s, maybe it's like me, I'm trying to navigate through perimenopause instead of really PCOS, whatever that may be, right? It gives you more information. And three, which is the most important, it allows you to figure out if the information that you're getting from your doctor or your internal doctor is not enough, or you feel like it's not enough. It gives you a basis for your own research, because if you don't do anything else, you have to research. Know what works for you, how your body feels. And once you kind of have a portfolio or a profile of you as a person, then you can start tweaking things. Like I said, I'm a diehard with my magnesium glycinate. It's very important to me. I'm a diehard making sure that I get my inositol. I am a diehard of making sure that I get 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning. That works great for me. So find what works for you, but understanding the symptoms is important. Tracking the symptoms with intention, it just arms you with more ammunition to have a healthy conversation with your doctor. It gives your doctor more information, and then they'll be able to build a profile and hopefully get you to speak to your medical insurance properly with the right information, as well as create a plan for you that's effective. Or if you have a life coach or a health coach, it helps them also to help you with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that, when you have the information that you can come prepared with and show them, here's the data that I've tracked, here's what I think is going on. Now, if you are still getting dismissed when you walk into that doctor's office to say, hey, I think I might have PCOS and I'd like to explore, like, if this is really what's going on. If they say no, two things. One, make sure that you ask them to please document that you told me you are not going to work me up. Please put that in my chart because you have requested it. And that can be part then of your medical history that they did not want to do the workup. Okay. Number two, find a new practitioner. Fire your doctor. Fire the doctor that is not providing you the care that you deserve. Women are so intuitive. You know what is going on with your body. You probably have gone down a rabbit hole on Google trying to figure out what is going on. And you've probably come across some things that you're like, yes, that sounds like me. Yes, I can relate to that. Yes, I think this is 100% what I'm dealing with. So you intuitively know when something is off in your body, and you deserve answers. And if you're not getting the answers from the provider you're working with right now, find a new one. And I know it's exhausting. I know it's a lot of work to go in and unpack everything again. I hear that from a lot of my clients, the thought of having to go tell a new provider all of this information sounds overwhelming and exhausting. But it's so worth it at the end of the day when you find the practitioner that's going to listen and help you get you the care that you deserve, and not just some blanket, here's some birth control and here's some metformin and just lose weight. Great. If that worked for us, we would have cured PCOS. PCOS would not be an issue for anybody.
It
right?
would be non-existent. I guarantee you, 7 million women, 10 million women have it. I guarantee you every last one of them have been told those three things. So it wouldn't be an issue at all. But to your point, I think that's a perfect statement that, yes, please fire your doctor. You deserve better.
Yes. Well, Monica, I think this is a great place for us to wrap up. I know that you have provided our listeners with a PCOS symptom and cycle tracker. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And we'll put this in the show notes that people can check out.
Yep, absolutely. So on our website, you go to www.pcosaa.org. There's a resource section there, and we have several organizations that we've partnered with that either gives you the opportunity to track PCOS. There's an organization out of Canada that's creating an app, and so we're super excited about that. It's called Go Loop. They're still in the beta testing stages, so they want our input, right? So what does that look like for them or for us? Also, we have Amino Meds. That is the way for you to find a medical doctor in your local area. Just Ask is also another organization that you go into the resource page as well, where if you have questions, they'll get a medical provider to provide responses as well. So www.pcosaa.org is the exact place you want to go, because that's where everything that we have resides. And I also want all the information that you do see on our website has been vetted by Cornell University's Ovary Lab that is led by Dr. Marie Lujan. So anything that's statistic related, any FAQ questions, we have sent it to them. They have vetted that information as accurate, and it is posted on our page. So we do not post anything that is based on opinion or based on rumor. It is vetted by a medical professional, because we have partnered with Cornell University because of their research and constant pursuit of reproductive reproductive health, but more specifically, the start of PCOS. Where does it come from? And how early does it show up in a woman? And so we're looking forward to the first phase of their findings this year, and we'll be sharing that as well with our community.
Amazing. What a great resource. So all my PCOS friends out there and people who don't have PCOS, but you probably know somebody who has PCOS, go check out this website because it's going to be chock full of really great information and resources. Well, Monica, I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for constantly highlighting whole women health and making sure that there's a voice in this space that is advocating for women's right to choose for who they are, where they are in their lives. And we're happy to be a part of the journey. But we also want to talk about Men of Teal. We do have a Men of Teal sub-community for partners who are like, what in the world? And how do I support my wife and my sister and all of that? There is an also community for you because we know we can be a little extra. So make sure you check it out.
Amazing. Okay, everybody, go check out their website, check out all the resources. There's additional resources she just mentioned as well. And thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Healthy Buzz. I hope this conversation has left you feeling seen, supported, and ready to take the next step in your health journey. Love what you heard? Make sure you subscribe to Healthy Buzz so you never miss an honest conversation. And if you found this valuable, please take a moment to leave a review. I truly appreciate it. For exclusive weekly tips and holistic strategies, be sure to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. The link is in the show notes. Remember, this isn't just nutrition, it's permission to trust your body. I'll catch you on the next episode of Healthy Buzz.